important road is being built in Dorset. The reason it's important is because it's going to take all the spectators to Portland for the sailing events in the 2012 Olympics. It's the Weymouth bypass. Joe was a JCB driver on the construction site. His watch in his belly told him it was almost time for lunch, but he thought, no, I'll just get one more bucket of chalk out of there, dump it on the lorry, and then I'll take my break. And then he looked to see what was in his bucket. Then they called the police, and the forensics came in and examined the skull. Fortunately, they were able to say this is not the result of a recent crime. This skull is at least 1,000 years old. So then they called in the Oxford archaeological team. And at this point, you may open the brown envelope on your table.
Okay, I've got mine already. Oh.
Okay. It's referred to locally as the Pit of Doom. And this is what my story is about. The archaeological team were given just 3 months to work on this site. They had to mark and photograph in situ every bone, every little piece of bone. And eventually they found that they were dealing with 50 skeletons. The heads were at one end of the pit, as you see from your picture. The skeletons were up the other. Now, it took 5 years for all of these bones to be taken back to the laboratory and the skeletons reconstructed, and a lot of great treatise was written about it. But fortunately, the radioisotope scans came back quite quickly, and that gave 3 facts. They were all men. They were between the ages of 14 and 25, yet strangely, the 25-year-old was riddled with osteoarthritis, and they were all from Scandinavia. So, what were the Vikings, as we must now call them, what were they doing up there on the southern Dorset Ridgeway? Now, at that time, the Vikings were marauding around all of the shores of England and Wales and Ireland. And it's surmised that maybe a fleet was going up the channel, there was a storm, and one boat was washed ashore, and the unfortunate occupants came across the local army or the local Saxon lord, and his soldiers imprisoned them. But why didn't they kill them there and then? Just bung them back in their boat and push them off. Why go to all the bother of digging a pit up there and taking them up there to execute them? What you need to understand about the Saxon culture is that high places had a great significance. It was a place of meetings. It was a place to settle arguments. It was a place perhaps of marriage. It was a place of standing stones where they practiced their religion. So the Ridgeway was incredibly important to these people. And I think that Saxon king, I think he saw his opportunity to make a name for himself, so he thought, we'll take them up there. That's where we'll do the deed. So he sent his soldiers up the hill. It's a very long hill. And they dug the pit. And when it was ready, the Vikings were pushed up the hill, probably prodded with swords and spears. All the village folk who had been around, because they all wanted to see the spectacle. It was going to be, the best thing. When they arrived on top of the Ridgeway, the Vikings were ordered to strip. We know this because there was no clothing, no remnants of clothing found in the pit at all. The first man is dragged forward and forced to his knees at the edge of the pit. 2 soldiers are standing in front of him. grabbed his long hair and pulled his head forward, exposing his neck to the two soldiers standing behind. And they hacked off his head. It was no clean death, this. It was hacked. You could see from the damage done to the cervical vertebra. Can you imagine what it was like to be standing over here, watching this happen to your mate, and knowing it was going to happen to you? What did number 50 feel like? He must have been beside himself. The pit was covered over, but 3 skulls were removed from the pit. We imagine that they were taken back down to the coast, maybe put up on spikes, maybe as a warning to others, maybe a way of reminding the local townsfolk what this wonderful king and his army had done for them. Who knows? So today you can drive from Dorchester to Weymouth and you'll drive over the pit. You can stop at the interpretation board and read the story for yourself. And you can wonder, if the United Kingdom had not been awarded the 2012 Olympic Games, would the Vikings still be up there on the southern Dorset Ridgeway?